start with is how we met. We were both attending Weber State University. I lived two floors above her.
Don't make it sappy.
What's that?
Don't make it sappy.
That's not going to happen. And we went. I went downstairs this evening. I went downstairs to pick up to get something, and she was there getting a chair out of a car, and I thought she was cute. She had a wonderful smile, and just I liked what I saw, and I offered to help her carry the chair up to her room. She said no.
Wasn't that heavy?
So I did anyway, and we got to know each other very quickly. We were in the same ward, went to church together, and I'm not sure how we hadn't seen each other yet.
I don't either.
But there was just something different about Wrylon. I'd never felt that way about anyone else, and I don't know, we officially started dating. We didn't have much time to, but the following week was homecoming week at the university. And by the time the homecoming
I had the
dance,
cutest boy to go with. He got the courage to ask me because he was really shy. And by the time we got to homecoming, I was so frustrated because I wanted to go with Lucas and not this really cute boy. Not that you're not cute, but...
Thank you. And I'd already asked, we were both already going with someone else. Yeah. And so we went, we had fun with our respective dates. Yeah. And at the end, I ran back in for something. My group was outside, and I had to run back in. And she was there. It was a song I really liked. Their group was standing around dancing individually, and I had to dance with that song with someone. And in an odd moment of courage, I went up and asked her date if I could dance with her, and he said yes. I don't think he knew what to think of it. And so we danced, and always before, growing up, it was very awkward for me. I dated a lot. I had a lot of girlfriends, and I loved them. I really connected with them. Some of my best conversations and a lot of the emotional growth that I had growing up was shared with these girlfriends. But it was always awkward when it came down to the slow dancing at a dance. I didn't understand it. I didn't get what the point of it was. And music was too loud to talk. It was just, but it was completely different with Wrylon. I'd never felt that way about anybody else in my life. I looked into her eyes, and it didn't matter. And for me, that was huge, because up to this point, I habitually avoided looking in people's eyes, because there was this darkness inside. I mean, this secret, this thing that I was just sure that someone would see. And so to have this person that I felt so completely comfortable with, I was gone. My feet had wings. I was head over heels with her in love, and I had never felt that way about anybody else, and I think we shared that. We had a kind of sappy, typical Mormon engagement. We engaged after 13 days of knowing each other, and there wasn't a formal engagement at the time. We just kind of started talking about our life together. We'd never mentioned marriage up to this point. It just happened.
Well, it wasn't a matter of what do we want to do, separately in our future, as what are we going to do? What is our plans?
And we both felt like we'd known each other. After we met, we couldn't remember not knowing each other. We felt like we were just a part of each other. I felt like I was more of myself when I was with her than I was by myself. Much more. And I knew that was what I wanted. This was the person I wanted to share my life with. I wanted to raise children with. I wanted to live through hard times with. And that commitment, that feeling, is what we've needed to get us through tough times over the years.
Yeah.
Dealing with SSA and a lot of other challenges too. When we were engaged, I told her, we were engaged for 7 months, and at some point during that engagement, we don't remember when,
A couple months into it.
I sat her down and I said, I've got to tell you something. And I'd been counseled to, the only person I'd ever told that I was same gender attracted prior to this was a priesthood leader. And mostly because I just needed to tell someone at that point. I'd never told anybody. I'd never acted on those inclinations. I needed to get it off my chest. And he counseled me at the time. He said, don't tell your wife. That didn't sit well with me. I didn't see how I could go into this relationship with secrets. It scared me to death to tell her. I just thought this was totally a deal breaker. And so I blundered. I didn't even feel comfortable with it enough to come out and say, I'm attracted to men. I kind of blundered through it.
I don't remember what he said.
And she said, okay.
No frame of reference whatsoever.
And we're both madly in love, young couple, and
I'm getting married.
And she's getting married, and and I think I could have told her that about anything at that point, and it would have been okay. But I think it's different because
I honestly didn't have any frame of reference. None.
Yeah, and we about a year after, and we didn't. That was it. And I was good. I was very happy not talking anymore about it.
And I didn't know to talk about it.
And about a year after we got married, we attended. I was dealing with some pornography issues, and at my bishop's council, we attended Evergreen conference. We enjoyed the company. We enjoyed the people we talked to. But I was in complete denial at that time. I was convinced this was something I was going to get over. This was something that I was going to fix. I had all these plans in place. I had a game plan. I was going to beat this. I was going to me, overcome it said that I would be normal, that I would be attracted to women, and that I saw it as an addiction.
The conference was fun. I had fun because we sat by fun people and
Lunch was great.
enjoyable. Yeah, lunch was great. Enjoyable company, but the conference itself was very
we weren't
a
at
downer.
We weren't at a point in our lives that we needed that.
No, I'm young, married, been married a year. Life's wonderful. I don't want to. I think I blocked out all the stories and all the things we heard because they weren't uplifting to me. They might have been stories of repentance or hope or things like that. But for someone married a year, whose husbands never act on any of that, that's not hope. That's not. So I think I just blocked it all out.
So fast forward. What, 10 years, about 10 years after that. After that conference, I don't think we ever talked about it again in those next 10 years.
No.
And there were, the whole time I was living with it every day, anytime I saw a guy, there was this part of me that I had to beat down, I had to suppress. The way I've told it to people before is, imagine that you feel like you need to repent of something, repent of what you are, of not anything you did, but of just a part of you. At the time, I never would have described myself as gay or even SSA. To me, that the term thinking that I'm same-sex attracted meant that there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't normal, and that I should be normal. I was convinced that it was something I was going to get over. And at this point, so I was controlling everything. I was trying to control every aspect of me. I was so afraid. So it's thinking back, it was very. I don't know how I ever. It's amazing to me how much control my mind had over my perceptions. While I was consciously thinking that I didn't deal with this, that it was going to go away, there was a part of me a deeper part of me that I think knew it wasn't going to. That was, I would, even to the trying to control how I gestured, how I spoke, the things I liked, how I walked. I was so afraid that someone was going to find out that I was attracted to men. And I need to talk a little bit about my upbringing and why that was so terrifying to me, because I'd never been around anyone that was openly gay, except for one brief moment. And so there was nothing in my life that I can think of that would have directly given that to me. The only interaction I had was from media. I remember from a very early age, I was 8 years old when the first time I remember that there was noticing a difference in what I was interested at that age and listening to other kids talk, which became very much more apparent to me as I entered puberty and onward. It was very apparent to me all along that there was something different about me, and that there shouldn't be, was my thought, and I just needed to be very careful what people saw.
And it wore you out.
It did. My sister said to me, she said, but you were a happy child. In general, I was. I had a wonderful childhood and
adulthood. You were happy. You were just tired. Or you were wearing yourself out.
It was. So over the years, this constant, and every time I had any thought about men or about being any type of attraction towards men, I would immediately try and rationalize it away, try and squash it, try and get rid of it. But in the meantime, I was desperate for connection with men, for love and acceptance.
But you were not okay to seek that out.
I had learned that as a man, it's not okay to have needs. It's not, you just do it. You're just strong. You're the strength. You keep going through whatever. It wasn't okay for men to be emotional. It wasn't okay to show emotion as a man, and that was very challenging for me. I'm a very emotional individual.
You show emotion to other men, or show emotion?
I guess mostly to other men.
Because you did show emotion to me and
that's
to
true.
the kids.
Mm-hmm. So to other men, and for me as a gay man, I need that. I need that closeness. I need to be able to express that and to live with that. And I didn't understand that at all at the time. And it was very separate, a very separate part of me. I felt at times as if I had two lives, two parts of me, the public part that everybody saw, and this strange part of me that I didn't know what to do with. But I lived with it. I was so afraid of it, so ashamed of it, that kept it completely hidden. I never pursued. I was so afraid of my feelings, any potential feelings for other people, other men, that I never pursued it in any form or aspect.
Any friendships?
Even friendships. I had
Real
some
close
some
friendships.
close friends,
Yeah.
but they were very unemotional, very somewhat distant friendships. Looking back, they were people that I felt safe around,
They were good
and I
friends.
still very much value the friendship. Very consider them some of my best friends to this day. I went on through high school, served a mission, and people have asked me if that was challenging for me or hard. How did my SSA affect that? And it didn't at all. It was a wonderful time for me. I was in a position where I had the same 3 companions for the majority of my mission. We just kept trading companionships, and these men became my brothers. I was in a place where I could live and interact. It's a very emotional time comparatively to your average man's life. And being on a mission, you're involved with so much in other people's lives that I was able to be myself and felt comfortable allowing myself to be myself in a way that I had never been able to before. I had some some of my companions were they saw my needs. They saw me as one that was very afraid of himself, afraid. I remember one companion told me, he said, he saw my potential, but he also saw that I couldn't see it myself, and so he worked to try and help that bring that out of me. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was able to connect to another guy in the level that I needed, as a brother, as a friend. And at the time, I didn't think that was just enough for me, and it was wonderful. So I finished my mission. I came home and went up to college, and was working as an editor for the college newspaper. This was the first time I'd been around the internet, and that was there. I discovered that all kinds of things are on the internet out there for anyone to look at, and it very quickly became addicted to pornography. Worked with my bishop at the time, was able to manage it. Was able to attend the temple and marry my wife in the temple. But all throughout my youth, junior high, high school, and onward, I really struggled with masturbation addiction, and then this pornography addiction. And I attributed a lot of my attractions. I had convinced myself that it was related to those. That was what had caused it, maybe with some other things from childhood. There was no abuse in my childhood, just things people had told me. I had created this story, this network that I used to maintain the image of myself that I wanted to present. And I was convinced of that. So I remember when I finally, as an adult man, overcame these addictions to the point where I really felt like they weren't a problem in my life anymore. It was very bittersweet. It was very I felt accomplished. I learned so much about the atonement, so much about, I gained such a strength and a belief in God as He helped me work through these. but it's put me, so now we're up to this 10-year point, about 10 years after we attended this conference. And if anything, after overcoming these addictions, my attractions were stronger than they had ever been. And I was against my own desires, I was forced to consider the fact that I was gay. It was a growing awareness. More and more I became terrified of thoughts when interacting with my wife. We've always had a wonderfully intimate relationship. We have great sex. And we so it was very, I remember thinking that there's no way that she could understand me. How could she? Because here I am in this life.
I think you were terrified that I'd run.
I was. I remember thinking if she only knew what was going on inside my head, that she would leave me. That there's no way that that she could be okay with this. And what was going on inside my head at the time was
And I was clueless. I didn't know that
I put on a really good show.
Yeah, I didn't know to be concerned about anything. You know, even though he had told me, to his understanding, what he dealt with before we got married, it didn't mean anything, and I didn't have any reason for it to mean anything. And babies and life, and I had no idea what was going on.
Our intimacy was real. The feelings I felt for her was real. The love I have for her was real. Deeper than I have ever felt for anyone else, and still to this day there is no one that I feel for as strongly as I do for Wrylon. My tangent for a second, I remember my grandparents, my mom's parents, they were the epitome of true love. I remember them as an old couple, they sitting there. Neither of them was overly emotional but on many occasions I remember sitting and watching them. They'd hold each other's hands just like that. They'd be sitting distant, but the way they looked into each other's eyes, they didn't have to say anything. I knew I wanted that. I wanted that love. I wanted to. That was life was about. I knew that, and I found that with Wrylon. And I couldn't imagine life without her. I told her once, later, that she has no idea what she does for me. I said, "You're the only thing that's keeping me from being gay." Because
keeping you
from being
choosing that lifestyle.
That's what I said to her, keeping me from being gay. And that's what I meant. So, from choosing to pursue a same-gender relationship. What was going on inside my head was a confusion of why I wasn't attracted to her in the way that I should be, was the thought I had. I wasn't sexually attracted to her. I wanted to be intimate with her. I wanted to share that with her. But I began to realize that I didn't see her in the way that men normally see women. And that thought, I hated that thought because I knew how important it was to her that I find her attractive and beautiful. And so I hid that from her for years. But at this point, with my attractions to men growing stronger, I began to feel
So they were stronger because you no longer had the addictions, and so you no longer could hide behind that.
yeah, I couldn't keep up. I was tired, I was exhausted, I was emotionally drained. I couldn't keep up. The controlling what other people saw, I felt like I was lying to her.
Well, you'd spent your life since you were 8 trying to
Uh-huh.
control everything he thought, or more so everything, the way you talked, the way you did things, and it was all his perception, your perception, because you're not really that different. But he was trying the perception that he had to control everything, and you can't do that for decades.
Yeah, I did.
Well, not without wearing yourself out.
And she asked me one night, I think she was beginning to feel something different. I don't remember why, but she asked
Well,
me.
I think you struggled at different times, but my thought was he's having a bad day or he's having a bad week, and I had no idea what he was going through his head. I had no reason to know.
And she asked me at one point, and I'd been dealing really quite heavily with hating myself because of these complications, because I wasn't who I thought I should be. And she said, don't you need me in the same way I need you? And I'm thinking, no, I don't. But how can I say that?
What I asked and what he heard and his answer was not, we were not on the same page.
I told her what made sense to me. I said, okay, we're different peoples. No, I need you differently. We're just differences in different people. And what she heard was...
Well, I think what I heard is my husband's gay and he doesn't want to be intimate with me. I don't know.
That went along with that.
And then I didn't believe the thought.
But
I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know what to think. And I think that was the first time that my thought was my husband's gay. But it wasn't I knew what that meant, so that's not him. And so it just,
I don't think she knew how to process it or what to do with it. And that's so for about 2.5 years, it started a very complicated part of our life. We had some medical issues that came up too, and the net result was that Wrylon ended up in a very depressed place, and
I was sick too, so.
And I was more so than ever constantly dealing with this growing fear that I was gay, and I didn't know what I was going to do for it. And I was starting to look for, I didn't know what but I needed something more. I became aware of a need that was not getting filled, and I had no idea how to fill it. I began to hope for and look for opportunities to talk to anyone that was gay, to feel out what am I going through, what is this, is this really what I'm feeling, or maybe this is all in my mind. I didn't know. And we did I was just so confused. I didn't know what was going on. I was dealing with this every day inside my head, and I was not happy with the way I was acting as a father, as a husband. I was dealing with so much anger and so much frustration. I was always short-tempered. I was always looking for coping mechanisms to deal with this stress. Just run a little bit more. Just go on a longer hike. Just read a book, watch a movie, just anything I could do to try and manage what was going on inside my head. And it was marginally working. I think a lot of what had kept me stable up to this point was there were two things. One, life was busy, and I didn't have time to. We had by this point we had 4 children, and a full-time job, and all the
Little children.
all the complexities of life kept me busy.
Very busy.
But the second thing is that I was able to experience the awesome things that come from having a family. Of every time one of your children is born, just to hold a new baby, my new child in my arms, to know that this was part of our family, to live through those experiences as a couple. The most important thing for us is that we're best friends.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine anyone that I'd rather do pretty much anything with. For the most part, we share everything. We've always been up to, except for what was going on inside my head. We'd always shared everything up to this point. We did everything together. We still do. People have asked us as we've shared our story. People have been surprised. They said, "But you love each other so much," and we say, "Yes, we do. Isn't it great?" And because we do, and that so those wonderful.
You're so lovey with me.
I am. I'm so affectionate, and we're the ones you're gonna catch us kissing in the pew in church, and because I love sharing that affect. I'm very affectionate, and she's the love of my life, and that kept me going, and the joys of raising our children kept me going. So there was so much that my life was full with, and that kept me going. But there came a time where it wasn't enough. I was worn out, and I couldn't do it anymore on my own because I'd been trying for so many reasons. Because that's just what you do. So, was that June of 2012? Josh and Lolly Weed came out. Shared a 10-year anniversary, I think it was, blog post, video. They're in the same place as us. Mormon, married and gay, with children and happy. And Wrylon called me at work. And yet again, you have to remember, up to about 10 years, we hadn't talked about this at all. She calls me at work out of the blue and says, "You have to read this." She said, "You're Mormon. Here's someone in the same place as us. You're Mormon, you're married, and you're gay, and it's okay."
And that was the puzzle piece I needed. I had little bits and pieces, but until then, I hadn't connected at all. And it was at that point I could connect. Oh, my husband's gay. I know what that means, and I can put all that puzzle pieces together, and here's another couple, and it's okay. And so not only was I given that last puzzle piece, but I was given it in a way that said, here it is, and it's okay, and it's something that's doable.
So as soon as she said that to me, we read it, the thought that crossed my mind is exactly this: maybe it's okay. It's just a maybe even. And as soon as that thought crossed my mind, I felt an overwhelming feeling of love from God that like I had never in my life felt before. It was undeniable. It was one of the strongest feelings I've ever felt. And the thoughts that came to my mind were, I made you this way. I'm sorry it sucks. It's what you need. And that's my world turned upside down. Our life turned upside down at that point.
So
we didn't know that it was in a place to be able to turn upside down, and it did. And it started, the next year was a year of acceptance, a journey of acceptance for both of us. As I allowed myself to be a man attracted to men, began to be, it took a while, and Wrylon was there by my side working through it of what does this mean? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for us? What does it mean for her? What does it mean for our family? We've got children. You know, what are they gonna, you know, what does that mean? And I had to live through, I'd never let myself experience any type of romantic feelings. I thought I felt them for Wrylon, and maybe I did in a way, but the feelings for her that I have again, they're different. I've never felt this way about anyone. But for the first time in my life, I suddenly was allowing myself to experience this portion of me that was just as real as any other part of me. And for the first time in my life, I noticed people checking me out. I noticed I
did come
felt
to the consensus that wasn't the first time someone checked
no,
you out.
but I never
It's the first
noticed.
time you noticed.
And it was a guy, and I remember, wow, this feels really good to have, you know, and just those. I was about at as we've talked about it, I had to relive through the developmental stages from junior high on up to my current age. I went through the intense new feelings of a 12-year-old, the slightly more stable but feelings of a 14-year-old, and the crushes of a 16-year-old. All those things, I had to go through them. It was like on fast forward. I felt like, first of all, I had to live through junior high and high school all over again.
Which I found humorous. I didn't find it so funny.
I come to her, I've got a crush on a guy, what do I do about this? And we'd walk through it, and that was so essential to me. I knew that I was safe with her. And so bit by bit, I began to share with her what was in my head, piece by piece, drop by drop. And every single step of the way, I was going to say she didn't bat an eyelash, but sometimes she did. Sometimes it was okay. And, but she began to know me. And she still loved me. And she loved me even more somehow. And because she was a safe place for me to be, I stayed there. And
well, the first 6 months of it was fun. We did it on our own, and it was cute, and he was cute about it. And you know,
like 12-year-old cute.
Yeah.
14-year-old girl cute. It was kind of weird.
But it wasn't. He didn't come to me in a worrisome way, and he didn't come in a.
It wasn't as ashamed as more of embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah. What do I do with this? And that's.
How do I deal with it? I've never had a crush before. How do I deal with this?
And it was sweet. He came to me sweetly, and I think that made.
It made all the difference.
It did, because that allowed me to be comfortable, because he was coming to me sweetly and saying, "Help me deal with this. Help me figure this out."
It was very exciting time. Every day was so different, so exhilarating. I felt so free. I felt like this tremendous weight was lifted.
Well, you could be you.
Yeah.
You were no longer trying to hide.
Yeah,
Or control.
I was an entirely different person. I hated crowds before this. I hated being around people. And right after this, I attended a conference.
Well, in the month before June, he attended a conference, and he came home every day just
drained, exhausted.
And too many people, and I want to go be by myself.
And that was regular. That was all the time.
Yeah. And then he attended a conference like 5 months later.
Was it even that long?
It's about 5 months later. And he came home and he was like, this conference was cool and the people and I got to meet people and I'm like, who are you? And then
I was exhilarated.
Yeah.
Conference pumped me up, and it was a computer conference. It was not even exhilarating. It was but just from the meeting people and talking to them and talking about, I met this person, and instead of, I'd be bored at work and I'd go wander around and meet strangers to talk to, and that was me. That was the me that I'd never been, and I loved it.
You were scared to be.
I was scared to be. I was scared that people would see me.
Well, and to top it off, in January he went to New York, and he came home and he's
for
like,
conference.
"There's not enough people here."
In
He
Ogden.
loved
Once we
being
got home,
around
there wasn't. I fell in love with New York. I just, yeah.
And I'm like, really? You hate being around people? People wear
So
you out.
I'm a new me.
Yeah.
And I told very early on in this journey, it was readily apparent to me that God was guiding every single day of my life, every single step of this journey. And I made a commitment to God. I said, I will go wherever you take me on this journey. I said, because I have no comprehension of where this will even end or where it can go. I said, you brought me to this point, so I'm yours. I will follow wherever you take me. And that also made all the difference in the world, to the point that we're here today. And what God did for me, for us, is continue to put people in our path every step of the way. There were many times where we felt like we're doing it on our own, but just at the right time, out of the blue, we'd meet random strangers that would come into our life that are now some of our closest friends, that would share. Most of them were ones that dealt with SSA too, not all. And
Like, we met at random places.
that was and they would say the exact things that we needed to hear at that time and time again. I knew God was taking care of us. I couldn't see. There was no doubt in my mind, and it continues to this day. So that first year was just wonderful. So there's your journey acceptance. Over that time, I began to feel a desire to share. I began to tell some people. It was terrifying. I'd never done anything scarier in my life than telling that first person. And he was so accepting that, and really trying to understand. And not only, he didn't run away from me screaming. He seemed like he was more interested in being my friend because of the trust that he felt like I'd given him with sharing this. And I experienced that time and time again, and it gave every little time gave me courage. Every single time, it was the scariest thing I'd done up to that point, it felt like. And then we began to share our story together as a couple. We felt a need. And the reason we're here today is because I would be ungrateful to God, to all the people that helped me, if I didn't return the favor in somehow. It seems so foreign to me now, thinking back from where I am now, that I was ever in such a scared, afraid, dark place that I was at that time, because my whole world has opened up. So I started an anonymous blog, and I wanted to share my story. I wanted to be open, and I felt a need to be. I'd learned the importance of being vulnerable in helping, in surviving this, of being open and authentic. And I needed to do that, but I was doing it anonymously. But it was the best I could do at the time. And
That was scary enough.
It was terrifying. And Wrylon started also anonymous. It was kind of exciting picking our own names that we were going to use on the blog, and we did it together. And we began to share our story, and she was looking for people other blogs to link to.
Yeah.
So she went looking.
And I didn't know where to look. And so I just picked some typical Mormon homosexual blog type places to look because I assumed I'd find stuff. And I didn't.
Oh, she found a lot of stuff. It
Yeah, I
wasn't
found a
what
lot
she
of
was
stuff.
looking for.
It was stories that weren't our story. And I couldn't find, after looking at pages and pages and pages,
It
I
was
couldn't find anything.
it was important to us to find. We need the support of those in the same place that we're at.
Well, I just assumed there were lots of people in our,
And
this is our life. I assumed
she
other
found people in other places, but no one where we were.
Well, no one had been married as long as we had.
That we had found at that point.
Yeah.
That were the spouse that was with same gender attraction had not gone and pursued that life those attractions at some point.
Yeah.
And so I think the thought that went through your mind is how
Well, there's no hope.
there's no help. He's never he's gonna screw
Well, he's
up
gonna leave me, and he's gonna leave my kids, and our marriage is over. And it might not be over right this minute, but it's gonna be. So why continue? This is pointless. And I was done. I'm like, our marriage is done. I'm not gonna go down this route. If this is where it's gonna end up, and I couldn't find anywhere else, and I didn't know where to look, and so I was done. So what brought me out was I had a lot of time to think. I spent a lot of time crying. I had to drive kids back and forth places, so anytime they were in the car, I was bawling. And I remember coming home and sitting down and, trying to figure out who can I talk to, and there was only one person that knew at the time that he'd come out to, and thinking, well, maybe I can go talk to this person, though I don't know what he'd say or anything. And Lucas came and sat beside me, and the biggest struggle of my life, here was my sweetheart, here was the man I loved, who I just wanted him to put his arms around me and tell me it's okay and make it all okay, and I didn't want anything to do with him because he was gonna hurt me, and this was done. And the thought came to me just to trust. I've gotten you this far, just trust. And I'm like, yeah, right? Did you read what I read? There's no hope, there's no possibility. And I just stronger just to trust. And it was like, okay, I could try that out. And we've since found other couples, and we've learned, at this day and age, it's now becoming more acceptable and becoming a place where it is okay to be open, where in the past it hasn't. And so, at that time we had no intention of ever coming out, and so to expect others to have been more vulnerable probably was not very nice of me.
Yeah.
But which is one of the reasons that we felt it important to share, because I said I don't want another wife trying to find somewhere when this is working and this is wonderful, and I don't have any issues with him being SSA or gay or whatever, and I don't think it really affects our marriage.
Sure it does, but not
Well, no.
adversely.
It's
It's part of who we are.
Not any more than any other two people together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want another wife going and trying to find hope and there be none, because there is, and there are lots of couples like us, just not everyone has had a reason to open their mouths.
It's still a challenge. It's still a challenge a lot of times for me. It's for us.
Yeah. And it took.
She's still working on that trust bit, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But it was a blow, because the first 6 months of our journey was just fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. There were a few things I had to process, but that's fair. Anytime something new comes up, you've got to process stuff. But it was fun, and so it wasn't. I think it scared me, and it scared me really bad. Something I didn't realize it was an issue, so I didn't think it was an issue, and all of a sudden here was this issue. Here was this thought that he's not going to be faithful to me that had never crossed my mind before. And that was really, for any wife, I'd imagine that's scary.
The complexities of same-gender attraction are still there. They're still very real. I'm still programmed to seek out male relationships, and as the more I move on with it, the more complex it gets. In that
We're
gone,
past the 12 he's cute stage.
I have a desire to seek out long-term male relationships. It's there. I don't know if it will ever not be there, but I can't. I've learned that that's just a part of me, and it's a very small part of me, and as much as I'm learning how to deal with that and how to manage that, but I'm also, I have a wonderful foundation to build on for that. And I've learned that this is what I want. It's what I believed I wanted in the first place, and so it's wonderful for me to come back to this point after a long journey and to find that this is still what I want. I'm still happy, I'm still satisfied. Some days I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work, but I have hope that it's going to. I trust God. God's got me to this point, and I'm still sticking with what I told him. I'm going to keep moving forward. He has never let me down. And I can't think of anyone that I'd rather go through this journey with than my best friend.
I've learned that the SSA part of a person is just a small part of who they are, and it helps them make them who they are. And many of the qualities of that are wonderful qualities. And there is the complication of attraction, but that's such a small part of life. And the world makes it this grand, ultimate part of life, and it's not. I mean, it could be, but that doesn't bring happiness. What brings happiness is when you make that the whole part of your life. And with Lucas, I can see that SSA part, and it's actually a wonderful part. And the attraction is just a small part that I actually think helps him have better relationships, and I think it makes him a better father and a better friend and person, and especially as we have young children that are shortly being the age of having to deal with those type things. He understands it. He's just been through it. And I see his SSA part as a good part of him, and I don't see it negatively at all.
I have learned that in order for me to be the man I wanted to be, I had to accept that I was attracted to men.
It's up to be you.
I had to be me, and at the time that seemed like such a big thing, and so much of my life that was such a big thing. It was so much in front of me. I was so focused on it that I couldn't see anything other than that at times. Yeah. And life's bigger than that. Life that to tell myself, don't lose sight of the whole, and don't focus on a part and lose the sight of the whole.
Yeah. You'd focus so long on that part that you couldn't be yourself. Because you're a very different person than you were then.
For me, that's what life's about. It's going. I want to become something I'm not. I want to become better than I am. And I don't know what that is yet. And so I have to believe that the things I'm going to do are going to take me there. And God is taking me there. I used to pray. I spent so long praying that my SSA would be taken away. And I've learned that he's taking me where I want to be, not without my SSA, but with it.
And to become who you want to be, who you want to become.
And that I can be happy and that he wants, not that I can be, but that he truly does want me to be happy and healthy in this, and that I can live according to the precepts of my religion and find a way to be whole and happy in this.